Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I am so glad you're here today because we need to talk about one of the most significant astrological events of not just this year, but of our decade. On February 20th, Saturn meets up with Neptune. Now, the two of these, they meet around every 35 years, 36 years. But this one is extra special because it's happening at that 0 degree Aries point, which is the first degree of the zodiac. And within that degree contains myriad possibilities because that 0 degree cardinal point is what we call a world point, meaning that anything notable happening is going to have global implications. All over the world, there is an awakening happening, a new consciousness. And the last time Saturn and Neptune met up, it was 1989. And that was around the time of the fall of the Berlin Wall. And think about how notable that was. Think about how liberating that was and how it changed decades of international relationships. And so here we are right now at that moment again in history. And I believe that what we're seeing with the release of the Epstein files, with the international response to that, to the uncovering of this global network of corruption and abuse, I think that is the modern day equivalent to the fall of the Berlin Wall. This wall of secrecy is coming down. Now, today we're going to talk about it from the macrocosm, meaning looking at current events, but we're also going to talk about what it means for you and your sign. If you know your rising sign, then listen for your rising sign. But if you don't know your rising sign, then listen for your sun sign. The first thing I want to do is I want to talk about that 0 degree Aries point. This is what we call a critical degree in astrology. And that means that things that coincide with major planetary alignments at this degree tend to have global effects. We feel them all over the place, no matter where we were. The last time we had Saturn meeting up with one of the outer planets, this was the Saturn-Pluto conjunction that happened in January of 2020. This Saturn-Neptune conjunction is taking place just days after an eclipse. It's a solar eclipse, and I'm recording this on the solar eclipse, February 17th. Eclipses speed up the timeline of our lives and of anything that is going to unfold. Eclipses can be wildcard influences. We can experience the effect of an eclipse before the eclipse or after, because it's a part of an unfolding storyline. And that storyline is all, are we willing to look at our shadows? Are we clearing our cache, our energetic cache? And are we living according to the highest good, according to our purpose? When we have major planetary alignments right on the heels of an eclipse, we know that we're not just signing up for big structural changes right now, but these planetary relationships, what we call synodic cycles, when two planets are coming together at the same degree of the zodiac, they have a longer story. They have a relationship that starts with the synodic cycle, because that's a return, that's a coming together. And then it takes, in the case of Saturn and Neptune, about 35, almost 36 years for that story to unfold. And so the chart for every synodic cycle tells us not just about what this moment means for us right now, but what it means for us in 2061 when those two planets meet up again the next time. These conjunctions mark moments when the boundary between what's real and what's imagined seems a little fuzzy. What's material and what's spiritual also seems fuzzy. And those boundaries that separate us from the realities of our lives and the illusions and dreams that we hold, all of those walls start crumbling and they dissolve. And then Saturn's job is to reform those structures. Neptune's job is to help us to dream a new dream. And so when these two planets come together, that's what we're doing. We're awakening to a new set of ideals. I talk about a new consciousness, but I want to anchor this in really practical terms. When we talk about a new consciousness, we're talking about a whole new set of rules that govern what's okay and what's not, what's right, what's wrong. but also we're talking about the shared experience of faith and religion and ideals. And we're unpacking everything. We're putting it all out on the table and we're saying, what do we want to keep and what do we want to discard? And in the midst of that, we're drawing to faith communities that really align with who we are. And we're holding the people in power who have abused their power accountable. In your own life, you're also being asked to fine tune what you dream, what you desire, what you want to create in your life. You're also being asked to rewrite your own code of ethics. If we look at the past of the times when Saturn's been in Aries and the times when Neptune has been in Aries, we've seen this real courage in advocating for our beliefs, in fighting the good fight. And that's something that we're going to see rippling out over the next several years. I also want you to think for yourself about what structures you want to reimagine in your life. And I want to, again, put this in really concrete terms. When we talk about structure, we are talking about the organizing principles of our lives. We're talking about our daily routines. We're talking about the obligations that we have, the responsibilities that define our daily experiences. Picking the kids up from school, our professional environment. These are the pillars that we lean upon that allow us to create wealth, to create family systems. And so when we're talking about structures, we're talking about those fundamentals in our lives. Our marriage is a structure. Our family life is a structure. Our religion is a structure. So when we're talking about reimagining structures, we're talking about rethinking the way that you organize your day, thinking about your responsibilities. This reaches us in our everyday lives. Saturn is a planet that relates to dedication. And often when we go through times when Saturn is really prominent in our astrological story, we're asking ourselves, what do we want to dedicate ourselves to? We're asking ourselves, what do I care about? What am I willing to sacrifice for? And so all of us are getting a new version of that. And you might discover that over the next several months, you want to rededicate yourself to a partnership or to a dream that you've had for a long time and it just hasn't reached the level of success that you want. You might discover that you want to dedicate yourself to something entirely new, a new career path. This is the seed planting moment. Now I'm going to walk you through what the Saturn-Neptune conjunction means for you in your sign. If you know your rising sign, listen for that, but also listen for your sun sign. That'll give you a complete picture of how this new beginning is going to work in your life. Okay, Aries, let's start with you because this conjunction is happening in your sign. This one is personal. That means that this is your identity, your sense of self, your physical body, and the way that you show up in the world. Saturn and Neptune at 0 degrees of your first house is like the universe handing you a blank canvas and asking you, who are you going to become? What do you want to create now? Saturn wants your commitment. And so you might discover that you are having to face some really hard truth about yourself, about your life, about your partnerships. And so there can be a wave of self-criticism that is coming at the start of this, or disappointment in dreams that have been unfulfilled. Maybe a persona that you've adopted that doesn't feel authentic to you and who you're becoming. And so this is a time to prioritize authenticity. And anything that doesn't belong in your life needs to be weeded out. This transit can come with some endings, but that's okay because there are new beginnings right on the horizon of this. I find that when we're talking about Saturn in our sign in particular, or in the first house, that often we're talking about adopting a new identity. And I see a lot of job changes coinciding with this transit because you want to express yourself differently in the world. And so that's one thing that you're getting ready to experience and to move into now. Anything we're starting when Saturn's in our sign or in our first house, we don't always gain a lot of traction right at the start. We don't see the outcomes or success right away. Saturn likes to take time. It's the slow and steady wins the race planet. And so things are building. And hang in there. Saturn wants your commitment again. You also might be going through this period where you are questioning everything, questioning decisions you've made, questioning your own identity. And that's okay because that's part of the weeding out process. Don't put too much pressure on yourself right now, this year or next year. Things will come into focus. But I think about it in terms of if Saturn and Neptune, if that synodic cycle is a seed that's planted, often seeds are planted under the ground and we don't even see anything that's happening until they start sprouting. And that's where you are right now. So there will be a harvest, the seeds will sprout, and you'll determine what seeds you've planted this year are lasting, which ones can grow. But it's just going to take some time. A few tips for you. One, enjoy the process of trying new things, starting things. And so I think this could be a pretty exciting time for you. And Neptune's influence opens your heart to love in ways that you have never experienced before. So I think we could see a lot of Aries and Aries rising individuals falling in love, taking big risks on behalf of love. Okay, Taurus, it is your turn. So this Saturn-Neptune conjunction is happening in a sector of your chart that relates to the bridge between the invisible spirit realm and the visible. So it's that most hidden sacred part of your chart. And so this conjunction is opening up for you a whole realm of intuition, extrasensory perception, telepathy, mediumship, dream work, psychology. You are going in deep and exploring different aspects of yourself that haven't been up in your conscious awareness. So this conjunction is asking you to do deep inner work. You might have started this month feeling like you need more time alone, like you're just not as interested in going to parties or doing big social events. And that's all for a purpose, because when we have that seed being planted in the sector of our chart that relates to our spiritual calling, often we have to be quiet, we have to sit still, and we have to listen, attune ourselves to the voice of our spirit, to our soul's urge. And that's really where all new beginnings come from. Saturn in this area of your chart is asking for more discipline in your spiritual practices. So the meditation routine, it's asking maybe even to join a spiritual community, to do something to create boundaries around the time that you sit in reflection or writing or in some kind of creative project, because that's a part of spirit working through us too. But it's a time to think about discipline. So that way you're not going out into the ether and getting lost. You need to have some grounding right now because things can be more sensitive for you. It's also possible that you could be sitting with a loved one who's going through an illness or in hospice, or that you could be going through your own health challenges. And so create extra space for yourself this year and next year in case something like that does happen. So that way you're prepared for it and you can move through some of those difficult periods with more grace. I think too, this year is a year of rediscovering what magic is, finding those threads of synchronicity. The 12th house is a deeply creative house as well. And so you might discover that you're tapping back into artistic talents that you haven't worked with. It's a great year for working with a therapist, going into recovery if you feel like that would support you, seeing a healer or an astrologer, learning your own divination techniques, or going into a deep writing process, which is how I am using this influence. Remember, if you need more rest, this is sort of a gestation period for you. And so let those new ideas be born and give yourself the spaciousness you need to cultivate them. Gemini and Gemini rising. This conjunction is lighting up your 11th house, which is the house of community, friendships, social groups. Saturn Neptune is asking you some really important questions about how you contribute and how much of a thought leader you want to be. Do you want to be someone who's in it, boots on the ground, volunteering, making things happen, or do you want to be visioning the new future? And there's no wrong answer because both are important. But you're going to see more about how you fit in to the larger groups that you participate in. You're also being asked to look at who your real friends are. And so there could be some difficult relationship challenges that cause some disconnection with people that have been in your life for a really long time. You might discover that the group that you belonged to, that it no longer shares the same values that you have. Saturn's influence suggests that you're getting real about your friendships, about who aligns with you and who doesn't. And so this could be a time when friendships that you've had for a long time start to shift, or you start to move away from groups that you've been a part of. And all of this is part of your own growth. Remember, Saturn is our dedication. And so you're discovering how to dedicate yourself in ways that most align with where you're going, not just where you've been. And so this can be one of those weeding out times where you look at your acquaintances and make commitments to the ones that are most meaningful for you and perhaps let go of some other relationships. So there can be a lot of social invitations, but you don't have to accept them all. Neptune has a way of working magic. And one of the ways that it's working magic for you right now is that it's bringing new people who are a part of a spiritual community into your life, but not through the normal channels that you might otherwise meet people. These are through spontaneous conversations, synchronistic connections. The 11th house is also connected to technology. And so you might start a community, like an online community, or work with technology in some way to connect with people. And the 11th house also is the house of our aspirations. It's the house of our dreams and our visions. And so you might have the seed being planted for something completely new, a dream that's coming out of the blue that you could have never imagined. Stay open to the possibility because there is magic afoot. And anytime we have Neptune strongly represented in our charts or in the collective story, we feel that magic. My advice for this time is to go through a friendship auditing process, looking at your relationships, who supports you, who feels like they leave you behind. Think about them all. Be willing to look at all aspects of your friendships and of your relationships. And then make a concerted effort to spend more time with the people who really love you, who see you for who you are, and who want the very best for you. Cancer, this is a big one for you because Saturn and Neptune are conjoining in your 10th house, which is the house of your public reputation. It's the house of your career and ambition. This conjunction is going to reshape the way that the world sees you and how you see your purpose. Saturn in Aries challenges your sign. And so you're going to be going through some tests of faith and come right up to those decision points of do I stay or do I go with work, with relationships, with friendships. You can't get this answer from some kind of outside external force because Neptune's involved, and Neptune asks us to be keenly aware of our intuition. You might walk through this year feeling a little bit like you're in the fog, having to take one step after another, looking for the light. But it's all going to become clearer after Saturn leaves Aries in 2028. For now, though, just keep following your intuition, keep going with what feels authentic to you, and stay in integrity. Because one thing I know about challenging Saturn transits and challenging Neptune transits is that when we don't stay in integrity or we're doing anything that feels slightly off, that usually comes back and bites us in some way because we're dealing with two planets that want us to be in our integrity, Saturn, and to have no illusions, Neptune. And so we have to be impeccable with our words. We have to be dedicated to our own truth. We can't have any misconceptions. And that's where you are right now. So if anything feels off, trust that feeling. It's your intuition, it's a calling, and pay attention. Because the other thing about the 10th house is that when you have planetary lights shining up there, especially planets that deal with integrity and consequence, if you are doing anything out of integrity, it's going to be seen. So anything you're doing that feels authentic, that you're enthused about, that is aligned with your purpose can be visible this year. You can go viral. You can have a best-selling book. You can do something that is really putting your voice out in the world in a bigger way. And so that's the potential of this transit. The 10th house and the 4th house are also on that parental axis line. And that means that you might be uncovering a lot of family stuff, becoming aware of traits from your childhood that you have inherited from your parents, or becoming aware of your parents' stories or your early caregivers' stories that you didn't know before. Truth surfacing. Or if you've been disconnected from one of your parents, there could be a reconnection that you're faced with this year. And so that is another aspect of this conjunction for you. But regardless of what's happening, it's a new beginning. It's something that you haven't encountered before. So it's less of a reverberation from the past, and it's more of something that surprises you. Leo and Leo rising, it is your turn. So Saturn and Neptune are meeting up in your 9th house. This is the house of higher learning, philosophy, travel, spirituality, publishing, and your own personal belief system. So this is the house that helps us to define meaning in our lives. And when Saturn is in this placement, first of all, I find that this is one of those times in a 30-year Saturn cycle where you feel like you want to be writing a book, or you feel like you want to look for a publishing contract for a book that you have written. You feel compelled to teach, to share your voice with others in a more disciplined way. The 9th house also deals with higher education, and so you might be inspired to go back to school, to pursue an advanced degree, or to travel, because the 9th house also relates to international travel. Saturn puts a little work and effort into those areas of our lives, but Neptune opens up the deep desire. So if you hang in there and you stick with it, then this is something that you can get that advanced degree. You can take that year-long excursion, whatever it is that you're dreaming about with these areas of your life, you can make it happen, but it is going to require some work. The 9th house is also the house that relates to directing, producing, any kind of larger format project that you want to put out into the world. And so if you have an inspiration that comes to you this year, take that as a seed and plant it, and know that it's going to take some time for it to happen, but now is a great time to start. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't say I'm too old, or I missed my time, or I'm too young. No, this is it. You are receiving a call. My advice to you is to commit to a path of learning. And even if that means that you're going to the library and you're checking out books, or you're working with a teacher or a mentor one-on-one, this is a great time to be developing your spiritual self, to be fine-tuning your philosophy and your beliefs, or to be going back to school. Virgo and Virgo rising. This Saturn-Neptune conjunction is happening in your 8th house. And the 8th house is not light and fluffy. This is a house that relates to shared resources. So the money that we have with our partners, any kind of financial entanglements that we're in, including debt, credit cards, insurance companies, taxes, the IRS, inheritance, anything that is connecting us in financial relationships with another entity or another person. The 8th house also relates to themes of death and life, rebirth. It relates to the deep psychological underpinnings of everything in our lives. And I find that all themes related to the 8th house take us back to this idea of deserving love, trusting other people, trusting that people are going to show up for us, and being open to receive. So that is what you are exploring in depth this year. When Saturn's in the eighth house, often we're restructuring debt. And sometimes I can see this associated if someone's taken on too much debt with looking at the question of whether or not to file bankruptcy or how to manage that debt. A lot of times I see people paying off debts and getting really creative and scrappy about how they do that. I also see sometimes that there are questions about inheritance, either because you're clearing out an estate and divvying things up, or because the inheritance isn't what you thought it was going to be, or because you've had a loss and you're working out the details of closing out an estate. Then I want to talk about Neptune, because Neptune opens up more of the psychological, spiritual aspects of this transit. And Neptune brings us deep into a healing process with any of our childhood traumas, with vicarious traumas that we've had because people we love have been injured, or we're witnessing the abuse that's happening in the world. And so this is a deeply healing time. Neptune is like a bath that clears and purifies. And so we could also be looking at this in relation to finances, because the eighth house is one of our financial houses. And this could be a time of working with a financial therapist or a financial coach, healing any beliefs that you inherited from your family about money or about freedom associated with money. And Neptune in this placement brings you deep into your own spiritual gifts, your intuitive abilities, your sense of mystical oneness. It's a time when you could be more inward focused because there's deep work taking place. This is a year to prioritize your financial well being. And so it's not the best year to take on new debt or to delay your taxes or anything like that. It's also not a great year to keep anything financial from your partner because it's all going to come out into the light. So you want to be living in integrity, especially as it relates to your mortgage, your finances, your debt. Stay in integrity. There's a very real possibility that mental health is a priority for you this year. So be proactive. If you start to feel down, then go and get some help. In fact, that is one piece of advice I have. It is to work with a therapist, to work with a healer, to dig into the reasons why you might feel unworthy or unloved, or the reasons why you want to withhold love from others. These are all likely to be themes for you, so it's a great time to get the help and support you need before you have issues in your relationships or in your work or other parts of your life. Libra and Libra rising, it is your turn. Saturn and Neptune are meeting up in your opposite sign, which means that you might feel that you're being pulled in different directions. Maybe you've committed to things or committed to people that are weighing you down, and there are new commitments and new people that you want to spend time with or that you want to prioritize. This is a decision point for you. When you're being asked to think about your relationships, do you need more space and time? Big relationship questions are on your mind right now. One of the realities of Libra and Libra rising is that so much of your life is focused on the needs and wants of others that sometimes you can get lost in the shuffle. And so this transit asks you to get real with yourself, to be very clear about your wants, your desires, and what doesn't work for you in your relationships. This is a relationship focused transit for you. And so you're exploring all things of love and partnership. Now, romantic relationships are definitely a feature of this transit. And so there's a new beginning coming for you. And if you've been single and hoping to fall in love, that's good news for you. If you're in a relationship and you're looking for ways to grow in that relationship, this is also good news for you. All relationships, including your relationship with yourself, are going through a growth spurt. Sometimes that growth can be uncomfortable because you're having to face some hard truths. And you might discover something about your partner, or you might have very difficult conversations that lead to more growth through conflict. And I know for many Libras, we don't love conflict, but in this case, it's asking us to redefine our desires and to redefine ourselves in our relationship dynamics. If you've had relationships that are being held together by codependence, by a fear of being alone, or by fantasy where you've idealized your partner or they've idealized you, these relationships could come to an end to allow you to have more authentic, sustained relationships. You might also find that you're being drawn to people who are more creative or spiritual, that some of the filters that you've had for determining whether or not someone you're dating becomes a partner, some of those filters get a little hazier, and you might let people into your life who you might otherwise not have let in. One thing I always advise when Neptune is involved is know your non-negotiables. Know the things that are going to be deal breakers, so that if you meet someone charismatic and they sweep you off your feet, that you have those guidelines in mind so that when those red flags come up, you can create boundaries. You don't have to jump in to something that is not going to serve your highest good. Or worse, you're not going to be deceived. This transit also applies to business partnerships or any close one-on-one relationships you have. And if you're hiring an agent or a representative, this also counts for that as well. My advice, have those hard conversations now so that you can be clear and authentic with your partner. Set clear boundaries with others and see if you can do that while keeping your heart open. And if a relationship is draining you, then reassess those dynamics and what can you do? How can you show up differently so that you're not lending your energy to someone else? And if you feel out of balance in your relationships or you feel undeserving or unworthy, then rebalance those scales. There's no reason for you to feel like that. And a lot of times those feelings start within ourselves. So know you are worthy. Self-love is a top priority for you. Hey, Scorpio and Scorpio rising. This Saturn-Neptune conjunction lands in the sector of your chart that relates to your day-to-day routine, your health and well-being, and how you show up in your everyday life. And when Neptune is moving through this area of your chart, you can have magic in everyday experiences. In fact, you might walk through your day being more aware of signs from the universe, feathers along your path, birds calling out to you at auspicious moments. You might discover that all throughout the day, you're more aware of your own spirit and your own spiritual connections. Nature is going to be really important for you at this time. This conjunction is lighting up your connection with the unseen. You might notice that in your shower or when you're brushing your teeth, when you're just going about your day, you're having these insights. This can be one of those times where your work is changing course, where you have a commitment to launch something or do something, and it's requiring a lot of your focus. Things take time to build and to grow. And I find that when Saturn is in that area of the chart, often we are working hard and sometimes you can feel underappreciated, or you can wonder, is what I'm doing, is it relevant? Am I on the right track? The answer is most often yes. And whatever you're building right now and whatever seeds you're planting right now will really pay off in a significant harvest in 6 or 7 years from now, when Saturn's a little bit further along and closer to the top of your chart. Grounding is one of the key words for you with this transit, bringing your ideas and your dreams into your physical reality. So I recommend having rituals. Set up an altar for Saturn and Neptune to bring the dreams of Neptune into the structure, the discipline, the solid action plan of Saturn. Alternative health and healing practices are also featured with this placement. And so this is a great time to be meeting with your Ayurvedic practitioner, your acupuncturist, anyone who's helping to restore your health from the inside out, and to fine tune a health routine for yourself. Just keep in mind your body is a temple, so treat it as sacred. And you might also feel inspired to volunteer, to give back, to do something that allows you to feel like you're making more of a contribution. And my advice to you is to do just that. That often when we're doing things that prioritize service, then we can have a little bit more perspective on our lives, and it helps us to fine tune our own sense of what we want to commit to in terms of our own personal ambitions. Okay, Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, it is your turn. So Saturn and Neptune are meeting up in a playful sector of your chart that relates to your creativity, that relates to how you express yourself in the world, and that also relates to your fertility, literally, and also think about it metaphorically. What are you cultivating? What do you want to give birth to? That is the potential right now. You are planting seeds of joy, and you just have to nurture those seeds along. Be willing to put joy into a disciplined practice. Actually mark out on your calendar, today I will feel joy. This is actually one of my favorite placements for the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, because this is an area of our charts that makes us feel alive with possibilities. Often when Saturn is moving through the fifth house, we are in one of the most creative times in our lives. And anything that we start with Saturn in this house usually starts to come into fruition. We start to see the results and the fruits of our labor in about 5 years when Saturn crosses the descendant and it's up toward the top of our chart. But this is when those seeds are planted. This is when the creative spark gets lit. And that's where you are right now. The fifth house is also one of our relationship-focused houses, and it specifically relates to romance. And so you might feel more committed to a partner, or if you're single, you might open yourself up to the possibility of love. The fifth house is different from the seventh house. The seventh house is partnerships, it's marriage, it's those contractual relationships. But the fifth house is where we start the process. It's the dating world. This is where we feel the feelings of love. And so if you're single, you might be inspired to start dating. Or even if you're not inspired, somebody might come into your life who wakes up your heart. And I've seen this happen. And so I'm optimistic that for you, Sagittarius and Sagittarius risings, this could be a story for you as well. One of the risks associated with this conjunction is Neptune has a tendency to relate to idealization, to building a fantasy. And so this is something that we want to be on the lookout for. So if you start ruminating about someone, or falling in love with an idea of who someone is and who they're actually turning out to be doesn't exactly match that, this is something to watch out for. And Saturn can relate to things being work, things taking time. And so it could be that you have a creative idea, or you want to start a family and you're going through a fertility journey. And so you might have that kind of creative process that you're embarking on, and it feels like it's one step after another, moving slower than you want it to move. Things take time with Neptune, so hang in there with it, and remember, Saturn is about dedication. So my advice to you is to take your joy seriously, prioritize it, and let any decisions that you have about family or love or your creative work or anything else in your life, let all of those decisions stem from that question of what is going to bring me the most joy. All right, Capricorn and Capricorn rising. Saturn is your governing planet, which means that this conjunction, it reaches the very core of who you are. It's asking you to think about, to reflect on your soul, your purpose. And so it has extra meaning for you. This conjunction is happening at the very root of your chart, which means that it's bringing up all kinds of themes around home, around family, around how your past informs present and your future. And so it could even be bringing up any dynamics in your relationships that are reminiscent to your parents, to your family of origin, and it's asking you to dig through your own root system and heal. To be willing to look at all of the ins and outs of your family, to be willing to see the truth about who they were and who you were. This transit could literally mean that you are making a real estate decision, either renovating a property, buying investment properties, selling or buying a home, making a major move. And so just be open to the direction that your life wants to take you in. It's possible that over the next several months, you could look around your house and say, I want to change everything. And that's because Neptune inspires a new dream. And it's a new consciousness. Consciousness is a new way of seeing the world. And our home is such a reflection of who we are and how we see the world. So as you're going through this healing process and this change, reshaping your very roots, you also are going to be aware of the way that your space supports you or doesn't support you. This is a great time too to be proactive, to look at your home and see what kinds of changes you need to make. Are there any appliances that are outdated or that are on their last leg? Take all of those concerns seriously, because when we have these two planets coming together, there could be the snowball effect of whatever is in your awareness now becomes even more of an issue as the next several months go on and Saturn moves a little bit more through Aries. This is also a time when you might be more emotional because you are in this healing process. So great time for seeing a therapist, for working through some of old grief that relates to your family of origin. It's a great time to be nurturing yourself or to find ways to nurture others in a way that feels restorative for you and doesn't feel depleting. My advice to you is look around your home. See if there's anything that feels disorganized, out of balance, and also actively engage in your healing process. Look at the ways that you can heal all through the ancestral and karmic lines. Okay, Aquarius and Aquarius rising, it is your turn. So Saturn and Neptune are meeting up in a sector of your chart that relates to communication. And so you are being asked to take a stand, to express your ideas, to speak, to teach, to think, to write, to let your voice be heard. This is an area of our chart that also relates to siblings and to our neighbors and our community. And so there are some ripples of change happening in those relationships or in those areas of your life. And you might feel extra sensitive about things that your neighbors are doing or about situations that are happening in your neighborhood, particularly if there is a development or if homes are being bought by a corporation. This is going to spark extra interest for you in becoming involved, in looking for a way to help protect your neighborhood. You also might be inspired to connect more with neighbors or to deepen relationships with siblings, to face any kind of hardships or friction that you've had with your siblings, and to go through a healing process. But all of that external stuff is happening because you're refining how you communicate and you're thinking about things in a different way. And so your internal dialogue is changing, and then that's having a ripple effect in all other areas of your life. Now, you tend to be one of the more community-focused signs, and this is a time when that is being amplified more than ever. And so you might discover that you're getting involved in activist circles or that you're feeling led to participate in a movement or a group. These are all urges that are coming from your soul and your soul's desire to be known, to be heard. This is a time when matters of power and voice and influence are front and center for you. And so don't be afraid to speak, to use your voice, to advocate for others, or to become more involved. If you are a writer, this is an excellent time to sit down and plant the seeds that will germinate into your next creative project, your book, your podcast, your curriculum, whatever it is that you're feeling led to write, now is the time to do it. My advice to you is start journaling. Even if you don't journal or you don't enjoy it, sit down and get some ideas out into a page. And journaling can be drawing, it can be voice recording, but start to form a communication with yourself that then you can externalize. I think you'll be surprised with the wisdom that you can share. Finally, Pisces and Pisces rising. Now, Pisces, Neptune is the modern planet associated with your sign. And so, like we talked about for Capricorn with Saturn, this one speaks to your soul. This conjunction brings up themes of purpose, self-worth, looking at your life and saying, what do I want to create in my life? This conjunction is happening in one of the money houses in your chart, the second house. And so there are some financial implications to this. Now, on the positive, what you might notice is that you have new ideas for income or new ways of budgeting or insights about your financial fears or worries or doubts or the ways in which you limit your success. You're going to have a real overhaul in your money beliefs, and especially any that are unhealthy or that aren't working for you right now. Finances will be a theme for you, not just this year, but also next year, as you navigate the ins and outs of this conjunction and the significant cycle that is starting in this area of your chart. Now, all themes related to the second house relate to the underlying root of self-worth. And if you're connecting your self-worth with your economic value or your work or things that are external to yourself, then this is a time when you could be unpacking that and discovering why you do that and what you can do to remedy that. So it's a deeply healing time for you with your finances. I will mention, though, that sometimes Saturn and Neptune can relate to challenges that you're having in this area of your life. And so this is not the best time to take on a lot of debt or to do any kind of speculative ventures that are high risk. Think slow and steady wins the race. That's Saturn's mantra, and that's how you want to think about your finances. Because it's really easy when we have Neptune, the planet that relates to dreams and ideals, in that area of our chart. Saturn gives some stability and support, so that helps to balance things out. But I want you to frame it that this is a time when you're planting the seeds for some kind of new framework for you financially. And so it's a time when you might have to take a step back financially to create more space for yourself, to build a project or to start a business, or you might be investing some of your own resources in those ventures. And there will be a payout, there will be some success that follows, but it's going to take time. So this isn't a year for those lottery wins or get rich quick kind of schemes. This is a year for being deliberate about your financial choices and dedicating yourself to the bigger picture goal instead of just focusing on right here, right now. This is also a year for understanding the spiritual dimensions of money. So thinking about it in terms of energy and how much of your energy are you giving out versus how much is coming in. And so if we take this idea beyond the cash in your accounts and we think about it in terms of energy, it's also a year of looking at what relationships are not reciprocal or in what ways you're indebted to others and that is showing up in your credit card receipts. And so it's a reframing of finances that helps you to heal the deeper roots of not feeling like you're enough or feeling like you're unworthy or feeling like you have to take care of everybody and there's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders. This is also a time to think about money as a source of good, to reframe a scarcity mindset and to look at what you actually value and how your spending habits relate to what you value and what you prioritize in your life. My advice for you is to create a budget, to plan, and to have guardrails for yourself when it comes to spending, so that if there's anything that feels off in your own body about the amount that you're spending or what you're spending it on, that you pause, that you reflect, and that you really let your intuition lead those financial decisions. All right, everyone, that is the Saturn-Neptune conjunction for you, for your signs, and for the world. Before I close, I wanted to let you know that I have a very special event coming up in April. This is a writing retreat. If you are ready to write your book, you want to get it out there into the world, you want to share your story, this is your time. This is a perfect opportunity to do that. This is going to be a luxury writing retreat in Ojai. I'll be co-facilitating it with my friend Colby Rebel, who is a psychic medium, a 3-time best-selling author, and we are going to provide inspiration, motivation, and practical steps to help you get your book out into the world. It's perfect for Aries season, and it's perfect for making the most of the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So I wanted to let you know about that, and there will be information you can see in the show notes. Thank you so much for watching. I'm growing my channel right now, and I love all the love that comes in, and I read every comment. So I encourage you, if you want to see something, please reach out, let me know, and I will create accordingly.